Okay.
Are we supposed to be screen shared with somebody?
Yeah, somebody's screen sharing.
Yeah, and I'm gonna need to read something in a minute. So
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
That's
right.
interesting. Okay, so we stopped that. I didn't realize someone starts sharing their screen.
I think that's John, right? Okay. Tim, we're ready?
Yeah,
Okay. I'm
it's
Kathy
close.
Leach. I'm here with Tim Selden, Jonathan Wolf, and Christine Lowry. The Montessori Foundation and IMC had a meeting last week, actually just really a few days ago. And what we've done is invited a lot of people to come together to see how we can respond to the need, sort of the unprecedented need, the uncharted territory that we all find ourselves in right now. And we have several goals. We really want to look at how we can support children, support families, help educators stay employed, help schools stay in business, help children continue to learn, and help look at the social emotional impact and the stress that this is having on everyone, from school leaders to teacher educators to children and families as well. So John, you created a few things in our brainstorming session, so this is probably a good time to at least chat about some of those areas. And then we're here to listen so that we can take these ideas to the Montessori community and look at how can we respond to your needs, and hopefully use some of your expertise that can be shared with other schools as well.
Before John, you start, let me just say, when we talk about the Montessori community, it's almost unprecedented. We're working with the leaders of AMS, AMI USA, MACD, the IMC, Montessori leaders across the country. And there are all sorts of teams that are beginning to try to figure out how to respond.
Yeah, National Center for Montessori Public Sector is working with us, Montessori for Social Justice, Trillium, all of the people who are traditionally have a lot of constituents and are producing content to share with others. So it really is, has been a very quick, rapid response. I know it feels like we're a little behind the curve, but I think that's because the landscape changes every day, every hour. We're all trying to like, oh my gosh, I thought we were responding to this last week, and now this week it's a whole new thing. So we really want to listen to you and kind of catch you up. As Tim says, there's been many teams or task forces that have already started creating content for students, looking at social emotional needs, and a variety of resources for all the schools. And that means all the schools outside of any membership group. This is for everyone. This isn't about membership. This is about Montessorians supporting Montessorians everywhere in the world. Okay, John, I'll stop talking. Go to you.
Thanks, Kathy. Good framework. So I'd actually like to read you an email that we attempted to send you, but something went amiss. But in describing what the purpose of this meeting is, and the title of this email was Understanding the Needs of Your Montessori Community. The purpose of this town hall meeting is to gain a better understanding of what public and private Montessori school students, parents, teachers, and school leaders are feeling and facing as they strive to negotiate this unprecedented world event. Our intention is to help you connect as soon as possible with the resources, people, and protocols that will enable you to address your school's most pressing issues, with the overarching goal of helping your learning community achieve a sense of stability and implement alternative modes of educational and business operations. In hearing from many people throughout the international Montessori community over the past few weeks, the following areas of concern have repeatedly surfaced. And we'd like to share these 5 concerns with you. Let me just page down here. Not that you are constrained into any of these buckets. If you have some concerns that lie outside some of these domains that we've been hearing about, we want to hear from those also. But these are like the 5 areas that seem to repeatedly surface from school leaders, school teachers, and parents. Number 1, and perhaps the most important one, how to create a home-based prepared environment so that children can continue their learning and development. There are 2 aspects of this area: learning experiences that can be presented online by guides and assistant teachers, and 2, developmentally attuned learning experiences parents can engage their children in. Number 2, the second major area we've heard a lot about. How to address the fiscal challenges of the cessation of on-campus operations. This includes 1, how to address tuition revenue needs, 2, how to address staff compensation, and 3, how to meet ongoing operating expenses. Number 3, how to help students, staff, and parents engage in routine self-care, maintain emotional equilibrium, de-stress, and stay positive. Call that practical life for everyone. Number 4, how to best communicate to parents and staff about the school's responses and plans as community, national, and world events unfold. And lastly, how and what to communicate to various age children about the nature of this world crisis. The goal being to reduce children's stress and anxiety by providing them with age-appropriate language that helps them understand what is happening. So these are the major areas that have continued to surface as we've been starting to listen to Montessori public school educators and private school educators and leaders around the world. Just to give you a sense of what people are thinking, perhaps many of these resonate for you. So this is simply a framework for beginning to understand what you're facing out there so we can connect people who have common needs and common expertise in groups to support one another. Kathy?
Yeah, so thanks, John, for kind of giving us some framework in these 5 areas. And of course, all of you out there might have some additional areas that you'd like to talk about. So really, as I said in this meeting, we'd really like to first start by just listening to you and what you're dealing with. I see a couple people I know probably have more developed plans and some things like that. And so I'd like to just get some ideas. If you've already had some plans in place, somebody like Patty, can I call on you and you tell me a little bit about what your school is doing and update us? And if you don't want to, that's okay. That's okay. You're muted.
Yes, hi. Yeah, well, welcome. We're calling this time silver lining time because we want to use this time to do things that we've never done before. So we are offering this week, so every school district in our area is closed. We are going to stay open. We're staying open just for the families that need care. So many of our families are first responders working in the healthcare. If they're not there, our economy doesn't work. And so we've gotten a lot of really good feedback from that. And we did a lot of Google surveys to get people to have that conversation. We have faculty that will be working at school. Those are people who said that they feel safe to work with children, and faculty that will work from home. The people that are working from home are getting that silver lining work we've always wanted to get around to, but we've never had the opportunity to do. So they're creating that, we're calling it, oh, I wrote it down, social distance learning, since everyone is keeping a social distance from each other. And so we're working on those packets. Our middle school has gone completely online. Upper and lower will do a blended online. And then right now, primary, toddler, and infants will be, hands-on care with a ton of protocols put in place for that. And then we'll see, but that's week 1, and we're taking it week by week. We've told our families that paying tuition ensures that there will be a Pines, that's the name of our school, there will be a school when this is over.
So then that was Patty Solomon. Patty, thank you, Patty. You're in Houston, right? So just so everybody has a bearing. So if you do want to share with us tonight, please let us know who you are and where you're from. That'll give us some context of where everyone is. And there is also a chat session going too. I know people are putting things in there as well. Do we have, yeah, John?
Patty reminded me, I actually forgot area number 6. There were actually 6 areas, so let me just add one that I forgot on the document. Okay. Those things out to everyone, by the way. The 6th area that we're hearing from school leaders is how to engage in proactive scenario planning. so that school leaders are prepared for a variety of contingencies and are considering operational alternatives well into the future. This is something Rich Unger was talking about in one of our earlier chats. It's very important that we do long-term and short-term scenario planning. If this happens, we're going to do this, so we're not caught completely by surprise.
Yeah, and we can envision that this can turn into, you know, sort of some support and sharing groups. If you have areas that you would like to participate in, that we're happy to continue to host Zoom meetings, continue to provide webinars that might be on topics that you're interested in that we might be able to help with. So, or that you each can help with, right? Because this is a big circle of everyone coming together to hopefully share these resources. So, John, do you have any thoughts on, you know, we have 100 people here. We didn't know if we were going to have 10 people here, if we we're going to fill up tonight. So, you know, just as far as, you know, getting people's feedback, is there an orderly way to have people to be able to share what they're doing or what their challenges or needs are? Just raising hands there is a place to raise a hand and we can see. I can't even on my screen see everyone, so. You're muted.
Yeah, raising hands won't work. I think if you want to speak, because there's so many people and we're not used to seeing this many people on a Zoom, send it by chat and you can unmute yourself. So that would be the logical way, because we'll only see a handful of people visually.
Yeah, I think maybe the purpose of this is to go in two directions. If you have something, as Patty has just shared, something that your school has started that could benefit other schools that are not that far down the road in their planning in any given area, please identify that and we'll capture that and try to connect with the second group, which is please identify if you have a particular need or challenge, question, something that your school or your teachers or your families are going through, or your students, please identify that, because what we're going to try to do is eventually organize people into areas of interest and need so they can support one another and get the help they need in the area that they most need it.
John, I wonder if at this point we don't want to do a little bit of overview about the background planning that has been happening. We're getting a lot of things in chat about using online learning platforms. And I wonder if there was an overview, for instance, of that committee that's working on content, curriculum, and online format.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if that would help with some of the questions that we're getting in chat right now.
Yeah, so I did, I was on the meeting today. We have task forces for every level helping to, I won't say necessarily create new content, but curate content. There's a lot out there that's being posted in a variety of places, but it's hard to, you know what seems to be good resources and what's not. And so we're trying to get it organized into a platform. It will probably be a Google site that you will be able to access, that anyone can access the resources and the different ideas that schools are using. Parent communications are being shared, how to, you know, let parents know what's happening, how often to communicate, how to keep people calm. And then of course the actual curriculum content and suggestions for things to do at home with families, because they're in a new situation. It's almost like they're homeschooling. Yet, you know, we want to make sure that the educators are actually providing some very good content and opportunities for engagement and interaction. And so there are groups working on that currently. I think Lori Karmazin is on the call today, and Lori was part of that group as well. And so we expect to have those kinds of things posted. Like I said, we're getting a platform. If anyone has great technology skills, let me know. I can use some help in that area right now with making sure that we have a way to host all of the resources that are coming up and have them organized in some way that will help people be able to access it easily. So I see that there's a lot. I'm looking in the chat now. There's yes, this particular meeting is being recorded, and if it's of any use to anyone, we'll be keeping that. And Christine is also taking notes, and we'll post those into the collaborative area as well. So, you know, I'm concerned about what your concerns are. That our goal is to kind of assess the needs of the community this evening and get an idea of, you know, either what you're doing, something you might have to share, and or what is it you need most right now? What is it? And because some of us, I think most of us, feel pretty overwhelmed by how much needs to be done so quickly in order to, you know, accomplish these goals.
Couple of other quick thoughts. First off, this meeting is being recorded. Assuming technology doesn't fail us, we'll convert it and have it uploaded, and it will be online, open on YouTube, on the Montessori Foundation's YouTube channel. Second, the chat is, we will have a record of the chat. So anything that you're typing in there will be available in some way, shape, or form. So we definitely have a record of what you're saying, even after the meeting is over. One more thing. Please let your constituents know that there is a lot of malware flying around out there. So some of these supposed free services that look like a deal, like a click here to get your free Zoom account, could actually download something nasty to your computer. Tell people to make absolutely sure that they're getting it from a trusted source, or they could have a problem.
Right. And I see Mary Ellen. I don't see you, but I saw that you're in the chat, Mary Ellen Montz. Area of concern is certainly the training courses. Many of the training courses, and this might affect many of you as far as if you have people doing their practicums or have adult learners who will be heading to a summer residential program this summer. We've been in touch with MACD pretty much almost every day, and they are being exceptionally flexible and supportive of adult learners. So number one, they're going to be assessing people's practicum hours. If they've got most of their or all of their hours in by the time we're closing now, at least we're this far through the school year, so many people would have gotten the majority of their hours in, so they'll be flexible with that. They'll also be very flexible with the face-to-face hours of the residential. Some of that portion will be able to be done online. So several of us have online programs such as Mary Ellen, a blended course where you're having people in person and or online. And so there's a choice to postpone the residency to the second summer, or to substitute with more online learning. And you know, that just depends on each program. But what Rebecca has asked is that everyone go to the MACD website if you're interested in how they're handling teacher training, and specifically ask to speak with someone there, email someone their call. They're being very responsive. They are working from home right now, so there may be some delays because, as you can imagine, they're getting a lot of calls, but they are very much working on it, as are the affiliates, everyone else who has training programs, MEPI, IMC, AMS, AMI. Everyone's looking at how we can be the most flexible for these adult learners so graduations aren't held up and things like that.
Yeah,
If I
So
could,
you may have said this, Kathy, but I'll just repeat it for everyone to make sure that you got it. So the most update information is being put on the MACD website. You go to MACD and then click on news, and that will have the latest updates for questions like this, because a lot of people have these questions.
Kathy?
Yep.
Yeah, I'm still thinking about your question, how we best organize this, since the purpose of this meeting is to really understand what schools and teachers and leaders' needs are. And we're obviously, with 100 people in attendance, we're not going to be able to hear everyone's needs or hear everyone's contributions. I'm wondering whether we could consider doing something like some kind of a survey monkey that people could fill out, where we could both identify needs and identify possible contributors.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't lose anybody, because we're not going to be able to do it in comprehensively in this particular Zoom format.
Yeah, there are quite a few comments coming in, and Mary Ellen, thank you for your offer to help, because I think there are going to be a lot of programs who need help with the experienced teacher educator programs that have been doing online for a while. So we'll definitely be in touch on that. John, are you saying send out a follow-up from this?
Well, I'm concerned that given the number of people, we're going to touch on certain key areas, and people are going to share some key successes and contributions and progress they've made, and people can also identify some areas of need. But we're also going to miss some people. I'm thinking of, is there, in addition to these 2 meetings, is there a comprehensive way of tallying potential contributors as well as potential, you know, where they want to get information from?
I mean, we can certainly use some sort of a survey to do something, and then have all the different Montessori leaders use their own email lists and constituency groups to kind of get that out, start pulling information and making it a little bit more structured or, you know, organized. I see a lot of questions about financial and tuition, an awful lot on that. And so maybe we take a few minutes to talk about some of the ideas that have come up from the schools we know that have dealt with this, and some of the other organizations that have been working on this, because there's, you know, we have the public sector that is going to continue to be funded, and the educators will continue to receive their salary, whether they're looking at online learning. Some of the public schools and charters are looking at online learning, but there's also the question of digital equity and whether or not everyone has the same access if they do this online. So there is a sort of a bucket of concern there. In a lot of our private schools that are tuition supported, you know full well that most of our Montessori schools, at least in the United States, if not around the world, really depend. They can't go a month without tuition payments coming in. It's just not feasible. And so what we're looking at is, this is a major reason that, you know, we don't just say, okay, well, the students just have the rest of the year off, or we're going to take 3 weeks off, and parents start questioning tuition. We have to help parents understand that they're paying not just for today, they're paying for the sustainability of the school long term. They're paying so that that child has a school to come back to. They're paying so that these teachers can create learning content and support systems for the families and for those children. So it's essential that we have you know, continued tuition coming in for us to be able to pay those teachers and keep the school open and not open necessarily operating, but open long-term, meaning we still have a school come July 1st. And, you know, I think there's schools in a lot of different positions. We've talked about schools that are more established, perhaps helping some smaller schools. There's a variety of ways that we can support each other. Christine, were you?
Yes, I was just going to say that a number of people have put in the chat, will there be a template created to communicate with parents? I've noted that as a need.
Yeah.
We do have a committee that is working on these fiscal concerns. The other thing that I wanted to say is that we had a wonderful conversation with Karen Ann, who has a very large set of campuses, schools. They serve 1,000 students in Hong Kong. They are way ahead of the curve here, and she shared a lot of information with us about how they communicated with their parents, and has put up a number of documents that will be compiled, and we will provide those templates for you specifically related to tuition, but maybe come up with kind of a sequenced communication that they have done over the many, many weeks that they have been closed. Anticipating that what John was talking about, trying to get ahead of the curve here on some of these, that this might be an issue where schools have to be closed longer than 2 weeks. So I've noted that. Thank you so much. Those are the kinds of concerns that we're trying to gather today, so that we can really very specifically pinpoint what it is that you are needing, and then we'll be able to prioritize that and get that information out to you we can't get everything out immediately, but we can certainly prioritize what we get out to you before
Yeah.
other things.
I'd like to address this. Thanks, Christine. I'd like to address this tuition issue for just a moment. There is an obvious relationship between expecting tuition and, if possible, maintaining some semblance of educational services at distance, or as Patty said, social distancing. There is a school that I'm working with here in Seattle, although it's not currently in session, it's not on campus, where from day one of this crisis, with the older students, elementary and above, they have immediately gone to as much online Montessori learning with the teachers involved as possible. And with the younger children, they are almost sending out daily, if not every other day, ideas of things that parents of young children can do at home. So the message is, we are in session. We're in an alternative session, we're in a distance session, but you're getting your money's worth. And I think there is a definite relationship. If you can maintain some semblance of educational continuity, it's less of a shock to parents when they're expected to pay tuition.
Yeah, I think it's important to be sharing those resources. Tim?
So basically what John is saying is, one, you need to first off keep your school in the hearts and minds of your parents in every possible way you can. Secondly, I think we can all anticipate that school closings may go much longer than your state currently is saying, based on the experience of China and Japan, where we have major schools that are now, I think, in their 8th week of being closed. That was Karen Ann was calling me just a few minutes ago from Hong Kong. I think that anything you can do to keep that relationship, and one of the things that's come out of the meeting is Patty Sobelman shared that at her school, she sent out an email that, among other things, said, this is what we're doing, and it's important to understand that your continuing support keeps the school going. Now, a parent won't necessarily care about that. So one of the things you're going to want to think about is, are you going to make this up at the end of the school year? Are you going to add on weeks to the school year? And if so, where's the teacher pay for that coming? You could argue that teachers are on a partial leave right now. Who knows? We have to think these things through together. And one of the things we're planning is to set up special topic webcasts where we really dive in deep with people who are concerned with specific topics, such as the very granular issues of what do you tell parents? What do you tell? How do you resolve this issue of tuition? One other thing, if you didn't receive a direct email from the Montessori Foundation, but heard about it through a friend, you may want to put your email address into this thread so that we can add you to the email list, because this platform did not force you to give us your email, so we don't have a record of who's here other than what I see in the chat.
Right, that way we can keep you updated on things, more meetings, or different ways you can contribute or access other people's resources. So many of the schools have been very, very willing to share as we reached out to schools. They've been willing to share their letters, their videos, a lot of their content. So this is really where we can help each other the most, is recognizing that we all have very similar needs and that we can support each other through this and share our thoughts, our ideas, our resources, and our challenges. Because the challenge you're having today may be somebody else's challenge next week or 3 weeks from now. So, you know, we don't want to be alarmist, but we do think that this is, we're probably in for a longer haul than any of us recognized even a couple of weeks ago. So John, we can work on a Google survey to send out to, you know, Montessori community and assess some things, but I still think it's important now. I see so much going into the chat, so thanks everybody for doing that. Happy to hear from anyone else who might want to talk about another issue, or if you want to talk more about fiscal. The other thing that's one of our most prevalent concerns is people's emotional well-being, adults as well as children. How are we you know, as Montessorians, as educators, also as parents, you know, or grandparents, we have the children around us, and what's, you know, how are we reacting, and are we in a panic mode, and, you know, what can we do to care for ourselves and stay centered and mindful and responsive, and how can we help our children move through this without, you know, so much fear and insecurity of what's happening next. And then how do we support our families and the teachers who are afraid they're going to lose their job and their paycheck? This is a real fear. So I'm happy to kind of open this up. And I know Christine and John, we have a webcast coming on Wednesday that's going to deal with that particular topic in depth, but I'd love to hear what your thoughts are and what you've seen in your communities.
I'll share what you're thinking about other things that might be helpful to you. I'll share with you some of the things that we have talked about doing. Those would include looking at some short 5 to 10 minute videos that we would post, ideally 5 days a week, maybe 3 days a week to start with, where we'll be talking about a specific self-regulation technique, how to use it, how to teach it to children. And that'll be available for parents and for educators. The more that we can, even in an online format, the more that we can model and specifically, explicitly teach our students when you're feeling and help them understand where in their body they might be feeling it. One thing you can do is we could do belly breathing, so we'll be going through a lot of those techniques. We'll be talking a little bit on Wednesday about the importance of co-regulation. So that gets into adult self-care and what we need to do in this very, very difficult time to manage and regulate ourselves so that we're there for our students. So I'd love to hear other ideas, other needs, other hopes that you would like to see us produce or provide for you as resources.
You know, Christine, as you were speaking, I was thinking, for those of you who are familiar with Jane Nelson's work, Positive Discipline, if there is ever a time for weekly, if not daily, family meetings, it would be now. And if any of you don't happen to be familiar with Jane Nelson's model of regular family meetings where people share their love, their gratitude, their concerns, their fears, this would be the time for families to come together formally and talk about how are we doing, how can we support each other.
Thanks, John. Vaiju, can I go to you for a minute on this? I see you're here.
You may.
Yeah, so Vaiju, tell us a little bit about yourself and your background, because I know this is definitely an area of expertise for you.
Yeah, so I'm trained in positive discipline. I'm hoping to become a lead trainer this summer so I can go out to train other Montessorians on positive discipline. But I'm also have been practicing mindfulness now for like 7 years and have taken 4 MBSR classes, wanting to be trained in that as well. So this is the key, guys, especially now during a crisis. This is truly, truly, truly the key for ourselves, because these financial struggles, these technology struggles that we're going to face, cleaning your classrooms, there's so many struggles we have up in front of us. But we have to do the self-care work. And we do class meetings very often. We do family meetings very often. I mean, in our family. So it is the one thing that can keep families together.
Yeah, I think, Baiju, if you have the opportunity to come onto our Wednesday webinar, it's 1 o'clock Eastern. If you don't have an invitation, if anyone doesn't have an invitation to our webinar lists, we do a family webinar on Tuesdays and a leadership webinar on Wednesdays. Again,
When is that again?
Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern.
I will look at my calendar.
Yeah, and the thing is, we hope to be putting either town hall meetings, webinars, something just about every single day, as much as we can muster. And we're happy to have anyone who would like to contribute and or participate or attend any of these. We're looking at topics.
I am doing a short webinar for my parents tonight. I'm going to be leaving in 5 minutes so I can get ready for that one.
Sure.
where we're talking about self-care, where we're talking about, creating a space for the children to cool off, for you to cool off, because being in close proximity for that long and not having outlets is going to be challenging. And we're putting together a short one now, and we'll have many more planned over the next 2 weeks.
So Viju, are you doing that via Zoom?
Zoom, yep,
Are you recording it, and would you
we are.
share it in the resource library?
I will ask our parents if
Oh, because they'll be on
they'll
there.
be on it.
Right.
So maybe not.
Okay. Well, that's
I can share my PowerPoint.
No, great. And we might be recording some other ones just for everyone. So definitely I'll be in touch.
Okay.
And Viju, I'll reach out to you as well, because John and I are putting together some of this stuff, and we'd love to have you join us on that team.
Yeah,
Sure.
absolutely. And if there's people who have expertise, thanks Viju, and I know you got to go, but thank you for being here. If you have areas of expertise or interest that you'd like to participate in one of the task forces that are trying to pull content together, curate, do any of these things, please go ahead and put it in the chat box. We can, capture it there. And if you have some comments and would like to talk about it now, we can, you just unmute yourself and go for it. As I said, we're really just trying to get a sense and assess what are the needs and what's the scope of really what we're looking at. And my goal is really to try to make it user friendly. Can we get this into some kind of format that is going to give people access to some good resources quickly?
Let me make 2 comments real quickly. A number of you are writing in the chat that you would like to join that webcast on Wednesday. If you go to montessori.org is the website, and you will see the Montessori Leadership webcast, and you can sign up for that, and you will get an automatic link in your email. So that might be, at this point, that might be the quickest way, because we're getting so many emails from so many people.
Thank you. That is the quickest way. That saves me a lot of time. Thank you so much, Christine.
Yeah. You're welcome. I'm wondering, in terms of organizing this call, we still have a fair amount of time. I wonder if we did it by buckets, and anybody that has concerns, questions, things that you want to say, and be brave. You can unmute yourself and just jump right on in there. You see, we've kind of stumbled over each other a couple of times. Go for it.
I'd like to express, as we are creating activities to do at home and focusing on the children and the children's needs, but we are also asking the parents to step up as the teacher. And the parents are probably not prepared. I've been a homeschool mom, and I know how scary and difficult that is. So from the Montessori community and anybody who wants to share, it would be useful to have a series of short videos to share with families on preparation of the home environment for this activity. We've already mentioned self-care and mindfulness, and we are not expecting families to do Montessori presentations at home. Rather, we are expecting to blend learning into family life. And so I'm sure there are some, even though every school has its own way of doing certain things, there are some common areas where we could create some video presentations that we could start with by giving our families, if it makes sense.
Vicki, that's fantastic. And that's exactly what the content curriculum committee is working on at different levels, to create those kind of videos. Lori, you were probably in on that meeting this afternoon. Do you have some updates so you might share that so people understand what is going to be in those resources once they are ready to go?
Sure. We broke into levels and did some breakout rooms where we kind of brainstormed what's sort of the logistics first. What we have to think about before we worry about content. So that was really kind of scheduling. When should we meet with parents? Because we need to invite them into this process first and explain to them what it is that we have planned before introducing them to the plan and expecting them to follow through with it. What sort of communications are going to take place at the 3 to 6 level, content is going to be about practical life. It's going to be about getting out into the garden. It's not necessarily going to be about specific lessons. We talked about the consideration that families might have multi-age children at home. And if elementary children are expected to be online doing e-classes, we have to coordinate with our levels at our school to make sure that we're not stepping on each other schedule-wise. So if I want a 9 o'clock circle time for my 3 to 6 class, but an elementary teacher is doing a lesson at 9, that's not going to work well for that family. Another consideration was that it might not be parents at home at first. Parents aren't necessarily out of work yet when children are out of school. And so we might be dealing with high schoolers, other caregivers watching children who might not have near the skill level, the skill set needed to conduct any formalized kind of at-home schooling. So that's another consideration of how to make that happen. And then really we talked about, most importantly, community, making sure that teachers are connecting individually with the families in their classrooms. What are your needs? What is your situation at home? You know, are you going to be taking care of several children? You know, is there a different caregiver in your home? What is your situation, so that teachers can customize the delivery to the needs of that particular family? So logistics is what we started with. And then we're going to come back and really dig into content. But there's a lot of those questions.
I was in the breakout session with Lori, and a question that came to me after our meeting was about like the disparity with technology. So if we're expecting our teachers to be providing these Zoom meetings, what do we do for teachers that may just not have the skill set to do that, or the equipment that they need to do that from home? And then also the families.
Right.
So we have, we're going to be preparing how to do Zoom for parents and for teachers, so that they know how. And it's, I understand the technology, there could be a technology deficit regarding computers, internet, and printers. Those seem to be the biggest areas, although phones don't seem to be as much lacking. And so when almost everything, including Zoom, can be accessed on people's phones now. So, you know, we're kind of trying to close the divide a little bit, but I think that there needs to be other avenues as well. I've heard from schools who are putting physical kits of things together that they're sending home, particularly for younger children that need more of the hands-on things. So maybe you can find some things at home, like a toilet paper roll. That was probably the wrong thing to say, because no one has toilet paper in the entire country. So it won't be that, but there'll be some other at-home, easily reusable type activities, you know, maybe with them directions on how to do those things. Sort of the old make and take things that we used to do before digital resources came around. So I think that what we have to look at is a variety of delivery systems and methods, and not look at this as going to be a one size fits all. You know, for large schools, small schools, different ages, there's going to be a variety of things that are needed. But the group definitely is putting together a how-to Zoom, and those I think are going to be done by Tuesday is the goal right now, is what I heard this morning. So we expect that to be happening. And I think some of these shorter videos and Zooms that we can do, Zoom recordings that we can get out to you quickly, that you can utilize and, you know, use for your families if you so choose. If you have some that you can share, as I advise you, then, you know, obviously if you have your parents on it, it's not the best format, but Zoom can be used just for a recording format. So you can record small, short 5-minute video that might be helpful. That we're encouraging teachers to record things like familiar songs for children, familiar stories, things that remind them and that they see their teacher's face, because this is about relationship. They don't want to see me singing the song. They want to see their teacher singing the song. And encouraging families to, who have the wherewithal to post their children playing at home or doing the activities at home so that other children see them. Because I think, as Lori said, we really want to keep not only children engaged, but in community. And if they feel like they see each other, oh, I know, I saw so-and-so doing that activity and I miss them, then we have a conversation starter as well.
Right. We even talked about things like a show and tell time where children can, kind of mimic your group school, a group time, or have things like scavenger hunt and have everybody bring in and report on their scavenger hunt finds. But trying to come up with those community building activities for sure.
Yeah.
Kathy, may I just drastically change the subject for a moment? There have been a number of questions coming up in chat about the U.S. Department of Education regarding annual testing. We know that testing is required in the Every Student Succeeds Act. The federal government is considering a 1-year waiver that can be granted to for districts that are going to be closed throughout the testing season, is the language that they're using. There was also a comment about special education. If the ruling from the Office of Special Education and Rehabilitation Services is that if a school is closed, that they are providing educational opportunities online for the general student population, they also must provide those for students with special education who have an IEP, and the child's accommodations and modifications must be adapted to that online format so that children with an IEP are still receiving a free and appropriate public education with access and participation. So that's the latest. I've put together some documents on those two issues, and they will be in the resource bank as soon as we have that opened up. I just wanted to clarify that since it's coming up. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. And also, let's see, I have a Danielle Engelman, is that right?
Yes, hi there.
Hi, Danielle.
Hi, thanks so much for pulling this together. It's very helpful, but I wanted to share a couple things that just happened to our small Montessori preschool and kindergarten located in Palo Alto, just to give a sense of, we're one of the hotspots in Silicon Valley in California and in the county of Santa Clara. And things just move so rapidly. I thought it might be helpful for the team to sort of see what we just experienced as a helpful way to contextualize getting prepared for what might be coming in your area. So on Thursday evening of last week, this Palo Alto school board, after an hours-long meeting, decided to keep the Palo Alto public schools open. By about 10 a.m. the next morning, the county had overridden them and closed all of the public schools in Santa Clara County. And I was on the online watching this happen and tried to reach our licensing division in both Sacramento, our capital, and my regional office, none of whom were answering. The regional office was closed and all of the mailboxes were full. So I had to make a call as an individual to say that we were going to map to the social expectations and the health and safety expectations that were being set by the local county as being the closest governing body that I could get to. And then I announced on Friday afternoon that our school was closed effective Monday. So from my point of view, like, I wanted to just alert you guys that I just lived through nobody told me. I couldn't reach the people who should have told me, and I had to make that decision myself. So I cited to our parents the local county as and the public school closure as an indication that this is something that we were going to do as well, because I felt there needed to be something that was defensible there. But if you want to, from my perspective, like the most urgent thing I need right now is I don't have language to tell my students who are now home or their parents what to say to them. So like, I know the curriculum we'll figure that out. We're definitely going to do, even though they're mostly preschoolers, we'll be doing a lot of online activities that the children can do and just basically providing support to the parents. But I'm still at like baseline needs, not curriculum needs in that sense. And also this happened so quickly. We were literally just starting to talk about curriculum, and like 48 hours later, we're closed for 3 weeks. So I hope that helps, you know, and I'm really excited to be involved in this greater discussion. I'll send you guys my teaching team's emails included in everything. Thank you so much.
Danielle,
Great, thanks, Danielle.
Go ahead, John.
I just,
on Wednesday for the webcast at 1 p.m. Eastern time. I know you're on the West Coast as I am. Christine and I and other people, we will absolutely address the issue of at different groups what we say to children about this event, which, as you well pointed out, Danielle, is completely different than curriculum delivery and learning. This is how we language the event so children have some sense of meaning, but they're also not overwhelmed with things that they don't need to hear about. As I mentioned at an earlier meeting, I was consulting in a school right after 9/11, and it was appalling what young children were learning that they should not have learned about the 9/11 event, and what older children should have been learning, because there was never an adult discussion of how do we do this in a developmentally attuned way. So please join us if you can.
And in addition to some ideas and some tips about how we present this information and how we have a conversation with children, we'll also be talking about how our actions are every bit as important, if not more important, than our words. So how do we, with our actions, reassure all of our children at every level? But we will definitely be talking about, as John just said, what's developmentally appropriate to share, how do we share it, and how do we do a lot of listening with children? Because, you know, we all have the mindset of follow the child in a guided way. So, you know, keeping that piece in mind too is going to be really important. Thank you so much, Danielle.
Thank you, Danielle.
And I think we're really going to end up with a series of these. This is an ongoing conversation of support and hopefully, you know, coming together and building our own community over an extended period of time. So while there feels like a rush and an urgency right now to get all the answers, I think a lot of this is going to reveal itself over time as we continue to get new information, make new decisions, and respond to that. So I expect that these the webinars and the conversations will be continuing regularly. And I'd like to see perhaps a separate task force that's working with the public sector, helping. We have Sarah and David, who's been participating with us from the National Center for Montessori in the Public Sector. They have a lot of thoughts and resources we're sharing with them, they with us. I'd love to see those of you who are involved in the public sector, maybe, you know, create your own group where we're happy to host it and have separate meetings, town hall meetings or webinars that respond to your particular needs, because some of these needs are going to be different, and we want to acknowledge that.
Kathy?
Mm-hmm.
Just one quick follow-up to Danielle's sharing and her point. For those schools that are encouraging their teachers to support parents directly, in other words, connect between teachers and parents, not only to share ideas of what the parents can do at home with their children, but I think one of the very first things that perhaps teachers need to share with parents is how you language this event with your child, because the child's emotional needs come first. And so the teachers are building community with the parents. That would be a very early topic to suggest.
Good point, John. Somebody's asked, can we get links to specific resources? I don't think we have that ready yet. There are teams working on it. Again, there's no endless amount of stuff that is flooding Instagram, Pinterest, Facebook. Some of it's junk, some of it's excellent. There's no rhyme or reason. And there was a really good post today that you might have noticed from WQED, Mindscape, saying, I'm not even sure that it's practical learning on short notice. Maybe just, by the time teachers and kids get used to it, it's going to be chaos. The bottom line is, I think whatever we do, we're trying to retain relationship. But I don't think there's a ready link that I'm aware of to curated resources yet. Secondly, I posted a couple of things just now. For anyone who's new, by the way, please put your email in so we are sure we know who you are and can make sure you're on the email list, because our email list is about 22,000 and we won't know who was on tonight unless you put it in there. One link I gave you was from Pete Judd's, and he's got a really great handbook that he created at the Montessori School of Tokyo. Another link was to a file sent to me by my son, Mark Selden, who runs the Renaissance Montessori School in Cary, North Carolina. It's an email or letter he sent out to his parents. He felt he should share it with you all tonight.
Yeah, and we do have others.
Can I add one more thing?
Yep.
Tim, I think in terms of, when we're thinking about, we have to prioritize this. We're not going to be able to provide online learning on Monday morning when the last day of school was Friday. It's just not feasible to do that. But when we think about how do we support families who have to be at home with their children until we can get that piece done, one of the things that we can have for you pretty quickly that you could share with parents is, and it's also in support of the child's emotional health, is the idea of having a predictable schedule every day, of dividing the day up into segments, of helping parents understand what those segments might look like and what they might do to help their children work independently during some of those, how to set some very clear behavior expectations during this time, and to have regular routines in the family that are as close to the routines that they have had as possible, to maintain as much normalcy for children as they possibly can. And so that might be, if you all agree, that could be a priority item that we could work on and have for you very, very quickly. So I'd be interested in feedback on that.
Can I say something?
Sure.
Something positive? Just to, be a little bit positive. My daughter today, she spent the whole morning, she's 9, creating a schedule of what she's going to do during these weeks. And the next thing she did is that she set up a Zoom account and invited all her friends of her grade so they can do every day a collaboration time that she already has scheduled from 2 to 3, where they're going to talk each other about the projects that they are carrying and how they're going to continue with those projects.
Love that.
So a lot of times maybe we need to let our kids, I know it's upper elementary, but I am sure that if we just give them those ideas, they will be able to, because they have their interest, they want to keep going. So
right.
Probably providing those tools or these ideas, they are able to continue and keep going with the projects.
Yeah, I think we talked about that today in our sessions, was the fact that the children will surely lead the way, especially those elementary and secondary children. It's going to be just helping them, get access to the things and to each other. I love that she invited all of her friends. Lori?
I'd just like to add that parents are accustomed to being home with their children. And so to the sense of this urgency that we have to throw something together the very first day is not really giving families any credit. They're very accustomed to 2 weeks off at winter break. They're accustomed to summer breaks. And so I think mindful about what we put together, we give it some time to really percolate, and we don't do this out of urgency for the very first day or even the first week, that we'll be able to pull something together that makes more sense, that truly allows us to meet the needs of our families. Like Jorge said, we have to give the children some credit. They always lead us somewhere, but we also have to give families credit. For the most part, families know what their children need, and they will be looking to us for some guidance, but it doesn't mean that we necessarily have to dictate hour by hour what they're going to be doing at home. So I just wanted to throw that out to keep in mind as well.
Thank you, Lori. I wanted to acknowledge that I know some people have been getting kicked off probably because of internet connection. I've been readmitting people as fast as I can. I see that Richard just joined. So again, if you're just coming to the group in the last moment or two, put your email in so we know who's here. And we are recording this session. Christina is making notes so that for those of you who don't want to watch I think we scheduled up to 2 hours for this meeting. If you don't want to watch 2 hours worth of video, there'll be simplified notes. And we will be posting the video on YouTube. We're expected to have 5 million hits in the first 24 hours.
And Mark Nardo, I see that you're here, and I appreciate what you said, that you'd be willing to help and participate with the public sector. And so I definitely will be reaching out to you and connecting you with some other folks who are interested in that. You want to give us an update on what's happening in Indiana?
Sure, Kathy, glad to help. Indianapolis Public Schools is closed. Most of the schools in Marion County and central Indiana have closed. We'll be out this week, and then we have 2 weeks off for spring break, so it looks like we're going to be out for 3 weeks altogether. That's right now. We do expect to come back on April the 6th. If that does happen, then we'll resume classes at that time. But our city and the Department of Health has decided to close all public schools in Indianapolis for the duration of 3 weeks. We've even closed down universities. All IU campuses in Indiana, as well as Purdue University, are closed. Some for the remainder of the semester. We have parents that are in situations where they're trying to scramble for daycare. We closed schools on Friday of last week. Tomorrow will be the first day that we are going to have staff come in from 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. Just to finish up some last minute tasks, because we expect to close all schools, at least in Indianapolis, for a week for some deep cleaning and just for some safety reasons, and then possibly not allow anyone back on campus until April the 6th. So the public Montessori schools are closed in Indianapolis. We just heard from our sister schools in Fort Wayne and from South Bend that they're closed as well. The district has decided to pay staff. That's something that the public school has the leisure to do.
Yeah.
And they will honor the payroll commitments, but we know that that's something our sister schools in the private sector can't do or struggle with. So we are going to go to e-learning days. The governor of Indiana has given us 20 days to forgive that we can use at our discretion, and the district has decided to use 6 of those days through next week, but we have prepared packets. We're also using a lot of resources, especially social media. Schoology is another access site that we use, as well as some distance learning sites that we can use. We were able to prepare a package of information before students left on Thursday afternoon. And then we're going to keep some of those packets available outside of the school door in bins where parents can kind of do a drive-by and stop by and pick up information. We're also using sites like Montessori for Everyone that we can have access to, where parents can download and print. But we also struggle with internet access and availability because we know that parents can't afford that. However, there are other institutions in Indianapolis that are stepping up and providing free internet access and free resources for our parents, which we think is very important. We're also worried about feeding our students. Yeah. So we have mobile sites that are set up around the city, around several different schools, where parents can drive in from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. To pick up breakfast and lunch for some of our students. And it's all children under the age of 18 can get meals regardless of their membership in the public school system. So that's something that we're doing to at least take care of some of those basic needs.
There's a lot to consider when you have that many children in a particular district or state that are out. And I wonder about the challenge that some of our states have mandated that the public schools have closed, but they have not mandated private schools and sometimes private schools less than 1,000 students. And so that leaves private schools in a little bit of a different quandary because now they have to make their own decision. Whereas the state comes in and just says that's that, right? Takes a little stress off of it because somebody told you to do it. So now we're in the position where schools, private schools are having to make these decisions for themselves, and or they could be making two decisions. There are children who are receiving childcare services who are under 6 versus the children who are in an elementary or secondary program. And so have any of you had that situation where your public schools are closed and you're, Patty, you're in that position, right? And
Montessori Foundation, because we're a group of consultants and parent educators, we actually run a lab school too. And our lab school was in that exact situation. We sent out an email yesterday saying that it was our hope to stay open. We caught enough flack. Helen, if you would mute yourself, please.
so anyone who's not speaking, go ahead and put the mute, make sure you mute so we don't hear the background noise.
Yeah. Anyway, we went through the situation where we announced that we were going to attempt to stay open, and we got enough flack from parents and staff. Even though we had asked people what their thoughts were, we realized it was not a wise decision, and that was uncomfortable too. So again, whatever you do, think it through. I was saying to our local co-head of school, what lessons can we learn from it? And I'd say, polling your staff, making sure that they really feel safe and don't feel pressured into saying, yeah, I'll come to work. Same thing with your parents. It might be a really wise idea to poll them before you make a decision that's contradictory to your public schools.
Right.
So I can't tell if I'm talking or not.
Can you tell us your name and where you're from?
Oh, hi. My name is Lisa. We're from New Hampshire. We're a small Montessori school. We only do early childhood, so 3 to 6-year-olds. And our state has mandated that elementary schools K through 12 close. We're not a daycare, so we don't offer extended hours. So we really consider ourselves a school, and we want to close, but we're concerned about the tuition.
Mm-hmm.
And we're offering online services for our kindergarten students. We're going to have an online platform for them starting Monday. And we're going to have at-home services for 3 to 5-year-olds. But it's that tuition dilemma that we're in right now.
Yeah, if you look at a couple, we posted one from Mark Selden that spoke directly about why parents need to continue to pay tuition. I think that the more services and engagement we can provide for parents of those younger children will continue to justify the need to continue to have people pay tuition. I think we have to take a pretty strong stand on that in order to make sure that we are viable and ready to roll. We owe it to our educators, we owe it to our families to support them, and those of us who are tuition driven, we have to do this. I mean, this is something that we might want to look at. There's a possibility you could extend, as Tim said earlier, public schools is going to be a little bit, don't hesitate to say easier, because I don't think anything is easy about this situation, but maybe financially less of a burden than some of the private programs that might have to extend.
So I agree completely with March. I mean, people have paid tuition in March, and I can say we're going to offer you these services through the end of March. But when the bill comes for April, that's my dilemma. Who's to pay?
Mm-hmm. No, Lisa, I'm not underestimating the dilemma that you're in, or that many of us are in, because if those families, even though you're saying, well, we're not childcare, those families still are not now paying for a service for someone to have their child, for their 3 to 5-year-old, right?
Right.
Right. And so I think these are the things we need to come together and brainstorm on. We all have more questions than we have answers, but I know that there's strength in numbers and in supporting each other, and having, putting all of our heads together and saying, well, what can we offer that's of value, whether it be community for the children and getting to see each other through Zoom chats, whether it's, teachers and giving parents content and videos and ways that the parents can continue to keep their children engaged at home. So those are just some of the ideas that have come up in the past couple of days.
I'd also like to share that there's a consortium of 10 early childhood organizations that have come together to advocate for there being a subsidy for early childhood programs / daycares that are needing to close because of their social responsibility or because of a governmental agency. And these 10, like NACI is one of them, 0 to 3 is one of them, some of the big name organizations for early childhood. And they are very heavily advocating for a sum of money that could be used to help support particularly our hourly employees, who are the ones at the lower range of the scale. So we'll continue to monitor that as well and see how that might fit into this picture somehow.
It's a really important point, Christine, from an organizational standpoint, but also I'm not sure if I see anybody from MPPI on today, Montessori Public Policy Initiative, because I know that many of their advocates, state advocates, are going directly to the states. Because, for instance, Colorado was, even though their schools were closed, we're told even private schools have to continue to pay their educators. So their state advocate is going to the governor saying, well, then how are you going to subsidize this for us? If the government's mandating it, then the government might want to support us. And so, do not underestimate the power of your state advocacy groups. And if you don't have the name of who your state rep is, your Montessori state rep, not your governmental state rep. If you go to MontessoriAdvocacy.org, there you can click on your state. You can find out, who your contact people are. And I know that Denise Monnier and Wendy Shank Evans are working very hard to make sure that each state has a voice in this particular situation that they're representing Montessori schools.
I would also recommend that you reach out to your state organization if you have one for Montessori, because they will be a wealth of information. Most of them are starting some resource pages on their website so that you can reach out to them. They can advocate for you as far as getting resources together and kind of calling together some of the best practices. I understand what Tim's saying, that there are some bad characters out there and some bad sites, that we need to make sure that they're authentic and doing the best work for children and for parents. But reach out to your state organizations. You should have a robust one, hopefully in your state, that can help you out and can guide you when it comes down to finding some resources.
Lisa, in New Hampshire, it's the New Hampshire Montessori Association. Reach out to Laura Mamarelli.
I have. I love Laura.
Okay, great, good.
So I guess my conundrum is I can service my kindergarten students because I can get lesson plans and I can do an online platform for them.
Mm-hmm.
But what are you doing for the online services for the 3 to 5-year-olds?
Okay, Lori, you're back on it. We actually there's quite a few resources, not all developed yet in this other group, but many resources are being developed for that particular age group for at-home learning and engagement.
I mean, I've got lots of websites and stuff, but I mean, I'm thinking maybe doing a story time every day, songs, things like that every day, but what more can we do?
They
I
want
mean-
to see their teachers and their friends, right? They really do. But Lori, go ahead. You have some thoughts.
Yeah, I think it's important that we stay true to Montessori philosophy and that we respect the concrete learner that our 3 to 6 year olds are. And so we don't necessarily want to deliver a lot of content online. What we want to do is give parents resources and ideas of how to implement practical life activities, how to, again, go out into the garden, how to have a nature scavenger hunt, how to teach children to fold laundry or do more cooking activities together. We need to help parents understand how to do that. So I see our role as, one, keeping that routine, keeping connected, like you said, story time, show and tell time,
Right.
song time. That's what we can do online via Zoom to keep community. But in order to keep the learning happening for the 3 to 6 year old, it's about being involved in everyday tasks. My biggest fear and my biggest goal is to make sure children are not sitting in front of a screen.
Right. Has anybody thought about keeping their playgrounds open?
Oh, I don't know.
What
Again,
I'm-
you'd have to disinfect.
What I'm hearing on playgrounds is still very, very small groups. They're talking about 2 or 3 children at a time.
But what I'm hearing though is, rather than having playground equipment, go to the running, the balls.
We don't have much playground equipment. We have a huge yard.
Yeah.
Maybe limit the amount of children.
Right. Right. Mm-hmm. But you know, providing parents resources for nature crafts. We talked a lot about, maybe this is an opportunity for community service projects. So somebody mentioned, you know, writing letters or making artwork or postcards to deliver to nursing homes. Now we can't step into the nursing home, but we could deliver them so that.
I do have some insight on that, because we're really good, excuse me, I can't think of it, but we have a relationship with a nursing home right here, and they don't want cards coming in, but videos. So we were going to do show and tell on video, send them videos. Cards can't come in because they may be infected.
Yeah.
So maybe we can sanitize them. You know, these are just thoughts that have been going on. It might be learning how to crochet or do a simple weaving, putting together small packs for homeless shelters, doing I'm trying to think of what else we came up with, fleece blankets that children just need to tie together, making small ones for shelters. So ways to empower children to kind of feel good about being home, right?
Great, good.
Laurie, I also want to just repeat what you said, that the idea that parents are used to having their children at home. We can trust that parents have some ideas about some things to do with their children. And so I would like to encourage all of us to just, you know, in terms of our self-care, try to take a breath, try to engage in some self-talk about, we don't have to do this by Monday morning. We want to do it well. We want to do it in a way that communicates to our families that we're there to support them and to guide them and to work with them. But I think if we get into a mindset of we've got to do a lot of this and we've got to do it right now, we risk losing the kind of quality that we want to provide for our families. And if we can take a step back and think about trusting those families, you know, by this time next week, we will have a lot of resources available. We'll be much further along in what we can provide to educators and then you to families. So I'd like to encourage all of us. I know it feels like, you know, we've got to do this, but you know, just maybe try to take a moment to just, okay, parents will be okay for a week, the children will be okay for a week. And then we can move forward from there in a more deliberate, intentional kind of way.
Thank you, Christine. I'd like to say just something, Lisa, about you started discussing, the tuition, and then we're segueing now into how we support children at home and support families. As in all schools when they're in operation, the key to parent satisfaction and continued enrollment is not only the quality education of their child, but the relationship between the parent and the teacher. So if your teachers are willing and available to do some of the delivery, Lori was talking about practical life. The ideal in the school in Seattle is doing this now. Each of the different classrooms and program levels are actually interfacing with the parents. So the continuous partnership is happening, and building a very strong sense of community in the middle of this crisis. And it's also bringing down more and more parents' questions about tuition, because it's not only the child who's getting served, but the parents are still feeling connected to their child's teacher. I think that's an incredibly important aspect of the community part of this is different than the content part of this, and that's delivered by the teachers.
To add on to that, John, another idea that we've been throwing around is using Zoom to meet with our parents of our classroom, because they're also missing the community connection. And parents might be a great resource for other parents. Hey, what are you guys doing? What is working? What have you found? And so we want to make sure that we encourage that as well. So offering that opportunity through Zoom with parents, saying, hey, we're going to have a classroom adult Zoom meeting on Tuesday night, come join us and share. And then we as teachers, each teacher sponsoring their own classroom meeting, will be able to support those parents that we already have relationships with.
That's a great idea.
Thank you, Lori. Right
And
on.
if we can do start simple, do something every day so parents know that we're here, we're thinking of them, we're aware of the situation. Anything we can offer, I think it's an everyday thing, and I think it's just start simple. So yes, we have this big complex thing we're trying to take on to organize a lot of resources. That's what Christine's talking about. It's going to take a while, but start where you are. Something to reassure people every day that you're still here, you're still engaged. We care about your family and what you're going through. We want to help your children. I would just say don't get bogged down in the fact that you don't have all the answers today, because none of us do. And also an idea that came out of today's earlier meeting was to utilize elementary and high school students to help with younger students. So even though we don't want mass groups together, high school and elementary school we used to have, when I was growing up, there was mother's helpers. The kid who was only 2 or 3 years older than me came and helped in the family and helped keep some of the children doing some engaging activities or monitoring outdoor play, things like that. So we want to encourage families, like how, they're just like, what do we do now? And the panic stops us from thinking and making good decisions. So we want to have, again, I would start simple and do something, and, reach out to them every day.
Can I?
On an immediate basis, let me get this in real quick because it fits here and then it would be your turn. On an immediate basis, if parents want to join in on that webcast on Wednesday at 1 o'clock Eastern, they are more than welcome to join in. It's not just for educators or school leaders. It's for anybody who would like to.
Oh yeah.
So, okay, Laura.
Can you? Is that going to be posted somewhere?
Well, that's on the Montessori.org website. If you would like to be added to the list, that would be under the Wednesday leadership webcast from Montessori.
Great.
And if you can scroll backwards in the chat box, Tim put in the link for that so that you can go ahead and sign up, and you will automatically get an email reminder with the GoToWebinar link that you need to.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, one of the things that we're not putting a lot of information right now on the public face of the Montessori Foundation because it just doesn't seem appropriate. But we're doing a lot in Facebook, and as several people have pointed out, There are a number of Facebook groups, including ad hoc self-help groups being created by parents. I just wanted to say I've uploaded another file for those of you who were commenting on this. Remember, this is a pandemic. It really took my breath away when we had reopened we said we were going to open school, and then we realized how serious this was, and we said, okay, we got to back off. So I'm sharing something from one of the major hospitals in Chicago, emergency room physician. I see that I believe Mary Ellen has just joined or rejoined.
Yeah, Mary Ellen's been on.
Or was it Mary Beth? If Mary Beth Ricks is on the line, you might want to unmute yourself. Laura, I see you're unmuted. Did you want to speak?
I did, and I was going to head into my house away from my writing studio so you could hear me, but if I'm online, then I'll stay here.
Yep.
I work at a Montessori school here in Boise, Idaho, and I've been in contact with my pre-K and kindergarten parents, and I'm actually going to conduct a student-led learning via Zoom with all of my students starting tomorrow. So that's also another option. I got into this Zoom meeting late, so I didn't hear if you were talking about that also, but I've taught online before. I'm a certified Montessori primary and elementary teacher. And I've also been teaching online literacy. I have my master's in education and I'm a literacy specialist. So I kind of thought, why not? All the parents are thrilled. It's gonna be a collaborative, community, student-led exploration, creative projects that they can do online, that they can do collaboratively. They can do them on Google, and they can share them with each other. Real world stuff like I believe Dr. Montessori would have encouraged.
So I'm curious, are you doing it at a specific time or are you doing it recorded and they can view it at their own time?
We are going to do it live. That's a great question. I hadn't thought about that. Right now, it's live from like 9:30 to 9:45. We're going to have a early circle meeting, sort of a Socratic dialogue type of a meeting. And then
That's what we're thinking of, but there's so many siblings who are in public school who are going to have Zoom meetings at the same time. And how do you fix that conflict?
That's a great idea. We don't have that conflict here. The school system just shut down for 2 weeks.
Oh, okay.
So since I'm at a private Montessori school, I am actually going to hold also an elementary Zoom creative student learning collaboration with the elementary school students that are, my daughter is in 4th grade. So I'm helping out. I've created it today. We've just been notified this afternoon that the school's closed down.
Yeah, us too. Us too.
Yeah, so it's kind of a learning process.
Laura, you said you're in Idaho?
Yes, I'm in Boise.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thanks for that.
Thank you.
Tim, I know you asked about Mary Beth, and I believe Mary Beth Ricks is on the call. So
Yep, I am now.
Hello, Mary Beth.
I was finally able to get in.
Yeah.
It's been busy.
Well, people have lost connection. I've been watching for people saying, please let me in, and I'm trying to open it up as spots.
Great. What can
Hi, Mary Beth.
how can I help?
Well, you've been through this a bit. Is there anything that you want to share about what you're doing or done?
Sure. So I started pretty early on. My parents are very high tech and highly educated and highly questioning. And so I started communicating with my parents on January 20th. And I have been communicating almost weekly with them since then. But on Wednesday, I determined we needed to close the school. And we're closing starting Monday the 16th through April 3rd, with a reevaluation the week of March 30th, and then we'll reevaluate the situation and close for longer if we need to. My guess is I'll be closed through the beginning of May, based on California and what's going on out here.
Yeah.
What we are doing is, because I had a feeling that we were going to close quite a while ago, the last 3 weeks, my staff has been creating work from home activities and put together a really comprehensive list of things people can do at 3 to 6, 6 to 9, 9 to 12, and our middle school. The teachers are planning to have 1 meeting a week with their classrooms because many of these platforms like Zoom have capacity limits. So we're just trying to use things that we don't have to do a lot of extra work in learning how to use it. All of our teachers are pretty good with Google Hangouts, so that's what we're going to be using. They'll be doing a Google Hangout at set times throughout the week, once a week. That I can tell you, like 3 to 6, it's story time, it's circle times, it's songs, but everybody will have a class meeting. And then the teachers will be available for check-in or just, information if they're needed at a separate time. We expect the teachers to email the families every day with new work. So those are all ready to roll out, and that rolls out tomorrow.
Mary Beth,
Uh-huh.
can you talk a little bit about your medical advisory group, please?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I did this with H1N1, and I did this this time too. As I said, I started a conversation with, I have highly educated parents who like to question things. And so I had run a medical task force before. So I gathered 10 parents who are willing to serve on a medical task force. And they've agreed. They've just been advising me all along and helping me make decisions. They were the ones who I said, should we ask people to stay home if they can, or should we move to closing the school? And several of them who work at Stanford in specifically infectious diseases said they knew information they couldn't share with me, but we should close. And close sooner rather than later to give parents time to find daycare. So that's what we're doing, or that's what we did.
So I've heard from many schools who have reached out to medical people within their community, or who know the right people in the community to help create, as you say, an advisory board, which seems to be very helpful and give parents some sense that you are actually using, community resources, but, knowledgeable and authentic community resources.
Right. I mean, I think every parent in my school knows I'm not a doctor.
Oh, that's
right.
a thing.
So,
I've seen you.
I just don't want to fuss with people saying, how do you know this? Why do you know this?
Yeah.
I like the task force standing behind me. It's a group of people. Jonathan, you've been on task force at my school before, and it's something I embrace and use often.
Well, I mean, especially in this time of stress and anxiety, whether among all people, if you can say as a school leader, I've checked with these noted authorities, whether it's governmental or within my parent body, it holds a lot of weight. It's like letting somebody run interference for you down the football field if you're a halfback. So it's a really good leadership practice.
It takes the pressure off my board of trustees as well, who are not medical professionals either.
Yeah, parents are looking for guidance for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So we're a very small school. Are you feeling that 1 meeting a week is enough?
Yes, we do, because we've created such a comprehensive amount of work. We also are trying to get our parents to spend time with their children, which our school is set up for two working parents. So a lot of the work is collaborative with your parent, even though the parent has to work from home and do their own work. We've tried to make it pretty simple for them, but we do feel like one meeting a week is going to be fine.
So you're doing 1 meeting, but you're assigning enough work for the week.
It's every day. There's work sent home in an email.
Okay.
And then 1 meeting, each classroom will pick a different time because there's multiple siblings at our school. So let's say room 2 will have theirs at 10 o'clock on Tuesday, but room 4 will have theirs at 2 o'clock on Wednesday.
Got it. Thanks.
Yeah. And then, that's what we've decided to go. We're going to try it this week. You know what? This is all new stuff. None of us know what we're doing. So we're going to try it this week. And if we need more meetings, we can go to more.
I have I'm going back through this chat and I see Patty, you've asked, Patty Solomon has asked, could IMC for us pass on to families that states that the Worldwide Montessori community supports families and schools in this challenging time, paying tuition, keeps your school alive when this is over. And I think that, you know, we'd be happy to draft something. We do support that. And I'm sure that our board would approve that, and we could get something out fairly quickly for schools if you think that would be helpful.
Great idea, Patty.
Yes, it would be.
Yeah. Yeah. So those are the kinds of things that, you know, if you let us know about, we really do want to help in any way that we can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had one family ask, Kathy, and I just said, now's not the time for me to think about finances. So if you don't mind, I'll answer you later. Right now, I'm just trying to keep the community as safe as possible. And as soon as I said that to this one family, they were like, oh yeah, of course. We were just asking. And so I think if
great
you
response. I love that.
Now is the time to keep the community safe, not the time to think about finances. I think that will resonate with your families.
Yeah.
Can you post that somewhere?
I'm happy to post that.
Thank you so much. That's fabulous.
And again, I want to say that we are going to have a central repository for all of this information. So you can, you know, getting it here, if people are willing to share that, that's fine. But there will be a central location that's being worked on right now. And when that's ready, that link will be posted so that anybody can access all of those resources, and they will be in these buckets that we talked about.
Thank you for doing that.
Thank you.
Just noticed that Cindy Acker joined us. Hi, Cindy.
Hey, Cindy.
Hi.
We've just been discussing what schools are doing, what they're trying, what their needs are. Could you tell us what's going on?
I've been listening.
Montessori school? How are you
Sure.
responding?
We are closed as of Monday, and we'll be closed for 3 weeks. We have teachers who set up YouTube channels. One for toddlers, one for 3 to 6, one for 6 to 9, and teachers are going to be able to reach in and share those resources. So I'm hoping that, and I have also mentioned to my teachers to please be prepared that their videos will be available to share so that other people don't have to reinvent the wheel. And then I'm doing a daily to every other day video of me to parents, just to keep them connected to the school. We're doing some separate information that just has to do with parent stress. It covers things like how to talk with your children, but also for parents. And then we have teachers, we have Kodai teachers, and our Kodai teachers are creating Kodai music videos that they're going to be sharing so that the children continue hearing that information and seeing the information that they need. And then our toddler teachers are creating other kinds of just music for 2-year-olds, trying to musics and stories, things like that, just to keep a 2-year-old occupied. And then the teachers are preparing daily lessons, and I ask them to do overkill of information so that parents have enough to fill a day for the children, and to also share things that they can do at home. And we're using some of the Montessori parent resources for that, and giving parents examples of things that they can do with their children, and reminding them that they also need time to just be, and encouraging families to just have gentle mindfulness time together with you.
Yeah, Cindy, I think that keeping in touch with people every day, I think just gives people a sense of continuity, and you're here and everything's going to be okay. And we don't know, but we really have to believe everything's going to be okay. This too shall pass.
And the one thing that I have said to my office staff, although I don't know that all parents will pay, is that they need to come from the mindset that this is something that has to happen. because the teachers have to continue to be paid so that we keep them. The school has to continue to run. And so it's not an option. I'm just not giving it as an option, but trying to help to support parents in the greatest way possible. And I would say that the greatest challenge that I'm having so far already, just in chatting about this and working on it on Friday, are teachers who are, they're freaked out, they're stressed out, and trying to just hold that has been very difficult, especially one of our campuses is a campus where it's shared with a church, and they're having a lot of trouble just knowing that they've been there, and are really, really concerned about that and afraid to come back to school, and wanting to not only be off and be paid, but not to have to think about anything because they're just freaked out about themselves and their families.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have that same situation.
Well, and we have to,
and that's very much part of what you know, John and I are working on that with some other people, and we're going to be looking at self-care for educators, for school administrators, for parents, for children. You know, we understand that this is a huge, huge need for all of us right now. And in order to even be able to access the communication or to, you know, do a lot of these things that we've talked about, if we're not coming from a place of positivity and having some calmness about it, it's going to be very difficult to implement any of this. So in a lot of ways, this is going to be some real foundational work that, you know, that we'll hopefully be putting together, John.
Well, Christine, what I'm also hearing in the course of this conversation from so many people is the importance of regular connection between people. Regular connection between teachers and students, regular connection between teachers and parents, regular connection between the head of school and parents. We're not going to solve the problems. We're not going to have all the answers, but sometimes we forget in a crisis like this, it's the human connection that builds community and builds trust. Right. Whether it's trust that, you know, I'll pay my tuition because I'm staying connected with my community, or I know what to do with my child because there's somebody just there listening to my needs. So I think this regularity of contact, since we are socially distancing ourselves, is huge. It's just huge. Can't be enough of it.
A couple of things came to mind too. Hi, Cindy. Is that we also have to be mindful that teachers have their own children at home. Yes. And that impacts them greatly. I'm thinking of my staff who have toddlers and children who during the day are in their classrooms, and so they are free to be teachers. But when they're at home and having to care for their own children, that's going to impact their availability. So we have to be mindful of that. And then, John, to add on to yours, we also have to make sure that heads of school are connecting with staff, and that there's weekly check-ins and weekly Zoom meetings to keep staff connected, and even, you know, looking at level meetings so that, you know, all my 3 to 6 teachers, we're going to meet once a week and check in with each other to make sure that we're all supported in our efforts as well.
Yeah. We heard from some other schools who do a typical assembly maybe once a week or once a month where the whole school comes together. They're going to try to continue that tradition through the Zoom opportunity as well, so that everybody's still continuing to get together.
Mm-hmm. Can I just be a timekeeper here?
Yes.
As I'm muted, but I'm not. We've got a little tiny bit more than 10 minutes left. If there's anybody on the line now that you don't feel like your concern has been addressed or that you've been heard, now would be a great time for those of you who have been listening. If you have something that you would like to say to add to the conversation, we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah,
I have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
Me? Okay. My question is, I'm just not sure how I'm going to go about being able to pay my teachers if it ends up the tuition is half, say for example, which is what I'm thinking. If my parents are going to be off for a full month, I don't feel right making them pay a full month. So So what I was thinking is, or proposing is that I have them pay half, but how am my teachers can draw unemployment, but that's still not very much. So that's my worry at this given moment.
I'll start in on that. I'm a teacher, not a head of school. And my husband and I are in a financial situation to get help from family members. So I have actually said that my salary can be put on hold to pay for other teachers. So who knows if other teachers are available out there to help out their fellow teachers, but that's one possibility. And then families that can give more in this time might be able to. I mean, I don't think that's I personally don't feel like it's unnecessary to ask. We're such a tight community of parents and community and teachers and heads of school that I think those who have are sometimes more willing to give in a situation like that. I know that my parents don't want to see me unpaid, and they've told me that privately, but I've said, no, I'd rather you give the money to those teachers who I know need it more than I do. And I'm not the only one out there that feels like that. I know.
And my teachers do know that I will take care of them, whatever it takes. They know that. I've loaned them cars. I've let them stay with me. I mean, we are a community, and they know I will do everything I can to take care of them. However, we just moved into this new building. We have this bazillion-dollar mortgage, and without it, we will go bankrupt. It's going to take 2 months, and we'll be down the tubes. So I'm a little bit freaking out, and it's really not pleasant for me to be in this frame of mind and to try and keep my teachers calm when put on my brave face. But so that's my fear right now, is how do I present this in a way to my parents that I can live with, because I don't feel right having them go. This could potentially be 2 months out. I mean, this could be a long time before we're back. And
do you have a monthly, weekly, or annual tuition?
Monthly.
So why do you feel?
Because they have. Why do I feel badly having them pay for when their children are not at the school?
Well, no, I know it stinks, but I mean, I live in the Northeast and we have snow days all the time.
Yeah,
and
me too.
Snow days.
We actually account for snow days in there, but still, anyway, I don't want to take up everybody's time, but I was just wondering how everybody is doing that. Are they having their teachers draw unemployment? Are they paying them and making the parents pay full tuition? How exactly are people doing that?
Well, Tammy, we're going to host multiple meetings. Some of them will probably be our typical webcast where you can't all see each other, but we can have several thousand people on. And
these are questions that we really need a little input on now. We really do.
Yeah, but I think the point is that some of these are going to be topics we need to get to quickly, but we need a lot more time than we reasonably have tonight. So for example, each one of these issues, someone's just raised the issue of staff or assistants providing childcare in people's rooms. And there's a lively little discussion. I think that the point that Tammy brought up and that people are discussing is a core point that really all of us in the private sector share, whether you've got a big school or a small school. So what we've got to figure out is what can you do in terms of HR law in your state, what's your contract with your parents, what's your contract with your staff, and what are your options. And the ultimate issue is this idea that's been raised by Patty and John and others, that if we're really going to make it through this, we're going to have a lot of parents who are on absolute emotional overload and financial overload. We're going to see businesses potentially fail. We're going to have people really frightened. And what you want is for them to look back through the experience and after the experience on their relationship with you, your employees, and your school, whether you're public, charter, private, large, small, AMS, AMI, IMC, you name it. We're all in it together. And we want those families to really think of you and your school as their extended family. That's what that's why we're here tonight, is to try to support one another in doing that.
So it sounds like, Tim, there's a couple of needs for some specific topic that as quickly as we can gather these resources, that finance would be at the top, and how to communicate that appropriately to the parents. What are the decisions that need to be made? How is that going to be communicated? So I can add that to our, I don't know if it'll be a Zoom or a webcast. We're going to have to figure that out if we have to open up our Zoom to a lot more. We're going to continue to do town hall meetings because we have literally hundreds of people who tried to get in tonight that couldn't. So we'll continue to have these meetings, but at the same time, we can start on specific meetings that are, sharing resources and sharing the ways that people have communicated some of these things. John?
Well, I was just going to say, in support of Tammy, and I'm sure many, many other small private schools, I think this is a very high priority.
Yeah.
This is a very, very tricky thing that has lots of moving parts and variables. So I think as soon as we can put together a group to discuss this, including people who perhaps solved some of this problem and have addressed this with their parents, I think we need to do this very, very soon.
I expect that you'll see probably by Tuesday a list of multiple topics that we're going to have meetings about. And even if we just have a few resources in that area, we will get you those resources while we're still compiling, the vast amount of resources. But we have a lot of expertise in just this room here. And so I know that, you can share resources with each other, and, we do want to help you figure this out. Again, we don't have all the answers. We so appreciate you being willing. What I've found about this in the past few days is the Montessori community is everything I hoped it would be. Everyone is reaching out to each other. Everyone is so willingly sharing resources, sharing their time and their expertise. And I think this is what it's all about. And on one of our meetings, someone shared that Dr. Montessori talked about the White Cross, the early responders, the people that would help, that would go out and help the children while the Red Cross was helping with the disasters, that the White Cross, those of us in Montessori, would support children and families. And so I hope that in that spirit we can come together, not as there's no expert in the room here. We're all, this is 100% uncharted territory, and we're all doing the best we can, but some of us are a little further down the road and we can learn from them. So I hope everyone stays engaged and continues to participate where you can. And certainly I'll be reaching out to those of you who have, you've put a lot of things on in the chat room that we take as sort of our goal of assessing your needs and looking at how we can do that. And then we have several of you who've said you'll help in some way, be able to contribute and maybe head up or participate in one of the task forces. So please reach out to me if you would like to participate in a different way, and then think about signing up for at Montessori.org for future webcasts, and we'll continue to do Zooms as well.
One of the things we'll do is increase the capacity of the Zoom meeting for the next month at least. Normally we don't, because they make it pretty pricey and it's only 300. And we've had up to 3,000 people on our weekly webcast.
Right.
So we're looking at options. Anyone who has more knowledge of technology than we do, you may know of better options. Val Weiss suggested we use WeChat, but it's all instant messaging.
Yeah.
We wanted to be able to
I think I heard, Tim, someone say that Zoom is offering free accounts, and they're
Yes, it is.
good for schools.
Yes, they are.
But it's not. They are free accounts.
It's only up to 100.
They're not the ones that go beyond 100 people in a meeting.
Yeah, it's a Zoom Pro. But we'd have to even upgrade from that. So
Gotcha.
yeah.
This has been really, really helpful. Thank you so much.
Well,
Thank you for being here.
And again, we will be having ongoing meetings, and as long as you are on if you received an email for this meeting tonight, then you are on the list. And every time another meeting comes up, you will be notified of that. It'll also be posted to social media when we're going to have meetings. But as Kathy said, we're going to try to do something like this every single day if we can.
Yeah. And keep in mind, you don't have to come to every meeting. This is not to stress you more, right?
Right.
Please do not do that.
And if you came to tonight's meeting, if you could refrain from coming to tomorrow night's meeting, because there were a lot of people that were not able to get in tonight. So thank you for being here tonight.
And the format of tomorrow night's meeting is going to be identical to this. It's simply understanding who's out there with what needs and what contributions. It won't be anything new.
But we will post the notes and the chats and the recording. So if you do have questions, or if you want to reach out to any one of us individually for a specific need, we're certainly happy to help or direct you to the right person or resources.
Can I ask a quick question? I signed on late. Were there resources for our families to help their children understand what's going on?
That we're going to do a webcast on that Wednesday afternoon at 1 o'clock Eastern.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And just for the record, NPR and really, if you just search for how do I explain the coronavirus to children, you're going to come up with lots of good.
Yeah, I've seen a few.
Yeah. And Tammy, did you have a question as well?
I was wondering if there's some way that we could all share the kind of homework that we're emailing out to like the primary students and toddler students. If there's some way that instead of us all having to recreate the wheel, we could kind of share that information.
So two things real quick. If you have something you would like to share, you can email it directly to me. I'll put it in the post that we're going to put out, to organize. And I would also say that what the group that Lori was talking about working on earlier, they're developing content and process for every level, including infant toddler. So there will be quite a few more resources to come. So start slow, start simple, stay engaged with people every day.
Yeah, and remember, you're more likely to become overwhelmed. And I think that's the biggest danger here.
Yeah.
There's so much coming in from so many directions. And you ultimately become like Bambi in the headlights and don't get enough done. So you really have to be slow and careful and not just knee-jerk throw any old junk out there. So there are lots and lots of stuff. What we're trying to do is get AMS, AMI, IMC, NAC, the others, really thinking consciously about how to respond to this if it becomes long-term. We're reaching out to schools abroad that are sophisticated, that have had 3 months of experience with this already and have developed content. We're trying to essentially curate resources. So one of my dreams when we started the Montessori Foundation, and then later out of that grew the membership group, the IMC, was that the Montessori community could stop thinking in terms of where you got trained and who you're allied with. We're all in it together, and we're all different. And so part of the theory is that we wanted to create bonds of friendship and trust and relationship, and it's happening. And it's happening just as I predicted back in the 80s. It's happening at the state levels, it's happening at the city levels among schools, happening nationally and internationally. So now the trick is figure out what are your key needs and where can you best get the help that you need for your situation. And one of the things the Montessori Foundation and IMC say in common is we're here to help.
You
Tim,
know,
may I, in closing today, may I just say one thing, because it's time to end, we're running over here. One of the self-regulation techniques that we can use that works very well for a lot of us is to express gratitude. So I would like to express gratitude for all of you who have been on the call, who have shared your concerns, your questions, your information, and we are in this together, and this is proof of it. So we can be very, very grateful that we've got such an amazing, supportive, knowledgeable community of people who care so much. Thank you very much.
I am seeing people saying, please, if you're going to post this text publicly, remove the emails. It'll take us a while to do that editing, but we certainly respect your wishes. We'll do so because we want to harvest the emails anyway ourselves so that we can communicate with you.
You're getting good at this.
So again, watch for emails that come out from Montessori.org, which covers the IMC, the Montessori Foundation, and the Montessori Family Alliance.
Well, you know what? Here's the thing, Joan.
Yep.
Who's having a private conversation.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think Kathy and John, Christine, any last words?
Just thanks to everybody for being here. Stay well, stay happy, keep smiling. We will get through this, and we have each other. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Thank you
everyone.
so much.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
bye.
We are going to have to implement something. Just I think. I mean, it's really doing not because of him. Not because of him.
What is that going on?
All right, I'll end the meeting.
Yeah.
Sounds good, Tim.
All right, everybody. Have a good night.
All right.
See you tomorrow.
Good night.